Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, all systems are go for tonight's happy hour. Get your cocktails ready and get yourself settled in for tonight's show. Alright, I'm about to get the countdown started, so we're going to get the show going in 3, 2, 1.
A little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
Get yours today, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. My hat's all akimbo. That's all right. I am the Old Humble Guy, and this is the Old Humble Distilling Company's Wednesday happy Whiskey Wednesday happy hour. Yeah. Jesus, it's Wednesday. Let's get our opening shot. I am all out of sorts tonight. I've had a very, very busy week. Very, very big news all week long. Super duper excited to share some great news. We're still in the preliminary stages of some of this great news, but things are moving. You know, there's three seasons when it comes to whiskey sales and whiskey placement in stores and on store shelves. There's the springtime, March, April, May. There's the summer placements, June, July, August, and then there's the big season, the OND season. OND is October, November, December, and a lot of times, big stores, big chains will stock up for October, November, December, and they won't buy anything in November and December. They'll stock up for October, November, December in August and September. That way they can wind their inventory down by the end of the year. They don't have to count anything. They don't have to count as much at the end of the year. So your distributor will stock up. They'll buy a big order September, October, or August, September in preparation for October, November, December, and then they'll just shovel stuff out of the stores through those last 3 months of the year. My bread and butter is still January through March, and March through August, because the big guys generally take up all the oxygen in October, November, December. But we have two very promising meetings. One meeting that I've been chasing for 3 years, if you remember the Zips liquor saga, and the other relationship that I've just started chasing in the last 2 weeks. So cheers to y'all, my wonderful, famous, fabulous fans who keep these gears cranking and keep the machine rolling. And cheers to me for picking up the phone and harassing people every single day for 2 months now. Cheers to everybody. But this is our Wednesday happy hour. That is all the shop that I'm going to talk tonight because it's happy hour, right? We're going to go to the bar. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a drink. I'm going to drink a glass of my blackout bourbon on the rocks. and I will probably only have a couple tonight. That's my opening shot. I'll have this one and maybe one more, and then I got to go to bed because I got to get up early in the morning because I got a very busy day tomorrow too. Um, our True Blue labels are about to go into boxes and eventually start making their way out to stores. The last of the clear labels have been bottled and boxed. I have 10 cases of those sitting and ready to go out. The next 8 cases are going to be our True Blue labels, and then following that is going to be 17 more cases. Um, and I will end up doing that bottling day, that bottling and labeling. Those bottling days will be done live, and we'll talk about various topics over the course of a couple of days when we do that. So there you go. Cheers to Sunflowers, who's in chat, and everybody else who is in chat and lurking about. Yes, Sunflowers, the bathroom is all finished. I got the bathroom all finished up on May 19th. You can go back and check out that live stream as I put the final finishing touches on the bathroom the day before the 18th or 19th, the day before the big party. And the big party was a good party too, I might add. We had a good time. We had our bands come out. We sold a lot of liquor. Everybody was happy. Everybody had a good time. I also want to note the sub count is steadily moving up. We've passed 2,090. I think we're at 2,097 last I saw. Sorry, I have munchies. William Hall is in chat. Cheers, William. You have not received your package yet. I know this. And I'm looking into it, and I'm going to solve that problem. You should be receiving it soon, because I'm going to start yelling at people to make sure that you've received it. Bear with me. Your package is on its way, I promise. So bear with me. You've got a bottle of the Clear Blue and a bottle of the Blackout Boomtown coming your way. I know you do, and I know you haven't received it, but I also think I have a way to solve that problem, and I will make sure that problem gets solved in the morning because I checked on it today because I was like, William's going to be in my chat tonight. And he's going to be like, "Where's my package?" And I'm going to be like, "Yo, I don't know. I'm gonna find out. And I'm going to get it taken care of. So you can count on that." And I will. I'll stay in touch with you very soon, and I'll give you a resolution on it tomorrow or Friday if it hasn't actually arrived by then. Bear with. So cheers to you, Will. What else is going on? I was going to say there's going to be some changes to the channel coming up. Y'all are going to notice more video posts coming. More of my car talks. Chats from the road. My 3-4 minutes that I do my chats from the road. More of those. More chats from right here in the office. Short whiskey talk. Short. Let's talk. There's 2 types of videos that I'm posting up right now. My let's talk about videos where I just kind of have a short little mini rant to get something off my chest. My short whiskey talks, like the Whiskey Zones of Texas that I just had. I've got 3 more of those videos coming, 4 more of those videos coming. I've already recorded one of them. The next one's being recorded in a couple of days, and the last 2 will be recorded probably together at the same time because there's 4 zones here in Texas. So I've got 4 of those coming, and a few more whiskey-related videos after that. One video being me proving the fact that I can identify my 4 different whiskeys by taste alone and not by sight. But I need my lovely wife to help me out with that one. So I need to make sure she's got time on her hands to help me out with that particular task. And then I've got an unbottling episode of, where is it? An unbottling episode of this whiskey here and a comparison episode between my bourbon, this bourbon, and Woodford Reserve. So we're gonna have some fun. I've got at least a half dozen videos scheduled and planned, but you're gonna see more of those short form videos hitting the channel probably one a week. Hitting the channel. Fewer lives. I'm not going to go live 5 times in a week anymore. At most, I'll go live twice a week. Once with a day in life, and of course, our Wednesday night staple. This Wednesday night show is going to be a little bit tighter. We're not going to go 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I'm going to do my level best to hold it to 2 hours solid, 2 solid hours. Of course, the topic's going to be whatever the hell I feel like the topic should be. Because it's a happy hour. It's a 15-minute chat. We bring a little chat to the same way we used to do when we went and hung out in bars. That was the whole point of doing this show. That was the whole point, the whole thesis of the show. Because you could used to be able to go into a bar, sit down next to a random stranger, and say, "Hey, Snoopy is blah blah blah." You talk like for 15, 20 minutes about Snoopy, and then you're done. You're like, "Okay, I'll talk to you later," and you go outside, you finish your drink. That's what we did. That's what we always did. That's what we're going to continue to do. The topic that I had originally planned for today, the difference between socialism and communism, I'll push that off to next week because I got distracted by prime numbers today, and I wanted to talk about prime numbers instead. I got excited about it. I fell off into a little rabbit hole of prime numbers. I'm like, you know what? This is more interesting than socialism versus communism. Socialism versus communism is a well-trod trail. But we're gonna travel that trail again next week. So it's not no problem. I'll just push it off a week. This week I'm going to talk about prime numbers because I find prime numbers to be fucking awesome and exciting and cool, and we're going to go check it out. I want to share that excitement with you. I want to share how cool it is I think prime numbers are with you, and maybe you can get excited about some kind of math nerd shit. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just be talking into the void for 15 minutes. That's fine. I'll talk into the void for 15 minutes. Y'all entertain yourselves over here in chat. And then at the end of 15 minutes, I'll pull up chat and we'll talk about whatever it is y'all are talking about while I ramble on about prime numbers. I got about 3 more minutes and then I'm going to launch into the monologue. And then after that, we'll do the Old Humble overnight like I normally do, and we'll dig into chat and see where things go from there. Y'all can talk. Yeah, I swear to God, wherever chat takes me is where we'll go. I am 100% Is that what it is? Egalitarian when it comes to chat? No, that's not the word. 100% uh, adventurous. That's the word I'm looking for. If y'all want to take me down a Second Amendment rabbit hole on chat, we'll go down Second Amendment. You want to talk about socialism versus communism, the original plan for the night? We'll talk about that. You want to talk about the latest news on the indictments coming down for a very high level criminal? Let's talk about that. We can talk about anything, whatever it is you want to talk about. I'm down. I'm just going to follow chat and we're going to talk about it. Y'all give me a topic, I'll talk about the topic. Speaking of which, I also have one more. My next car talk chat from the mobile office is going to be about macaroni salad. A recommendation in chat from one of the commenters on my potato salad video. If you haven't seen the potato salad video, go check out I want to talk about. Let's talk about your potato salad is what it's called. And again, as I said in that video, potato salad is the absolute worst. It is disgusting. Double S gusting. It is gross. You take perfectly good potatoes and you ruin them with mayonnaise, Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip is what absolutely fucking ruins everything. We all know your secret ingredient is Miracle Whip. You're not fooling anybody. And Miracle Whip also, by the way, just so you know, disgusting. Miracle Whip is absolutely gross. If I ask for mayonnaise on my hamburger and you put Miracle Whip on my hamburger, I'm going to throw my hamburger at you because that is gross. Miracle Whip is not good. It is gross. And also, by the way, just because they call it salad dressing does not make what you put it on a salad. You can't put Miracle Whip on macaroni and call it a salad. It's disgusting. But I don't want to talk about that tonight. Actually, a good topic for a show would be the anatomy of a perfect cookout. That would be a good topic for a show. But that's neither here nor there. It's time for the monologue. Time to actually talk about these things. The thing that I want to talk about tonight. And as a number file, as a mathophile, is that the word? I think that's a word. So if I turn my head a little bit this way, see if I look straight on, it really does look akimbo. But that's not. It's even worse, isn't it? My hat is bent. It's usually it normally gets bent this way because that's where my wrist goes when I put it on my head. And I guess I tug it down a little bit over there, but that's not why it's bent. That was bent that way because that's where That's where my hand goes now. But that's not. This is not the center of my. So I can't like put that. Now it's crooked. I gotta have it a little bit over here. But anyway, okay, enough fitzing with the hat. It's bothering me though. I look at, okay, this is about right. This fine. This good. Okay, we're good. Anyway, sunflowers doesn't like mayonnaise. Anyway, all right, Jimmy C and friends, welcome to chat. Okay, anyway, we'll come back to chat in just a second. We'll talk about how Miracle Whip is the absolute most disgusting crap on the planet. It Miracle Whip is ruined mayonnaise. Don't get me. You're gonna get me started. Don't get me. I want to talk about my prime numbers, man. Okay, all right. So in my spare time, I'm tutoring kids in math. Go off do this tutoring program. Tutoring kids in math. I guess I should wait for Vanessa. Y'all go tell Vanessa Kitty to get her ass over here. I'll give her 2 more minutes. I've got a schedule I'm trying to keep, though. She'll come join us. She'll be fine. Okay. So I'm tutoring kids in math. A common topic right now among the age group of kids that I'm tutoring is least common multiple, least common factor, greatest common multiple, right? And when you're doing this, you've got to be able to look at the numbers and know how to divide the numbers, right? And so, there's division rules for every number, right? So we know every number is divisible by 1. That's not a rule. All of the even numbers are divisible by 2. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and ends in 0. All of those numbers that end in those numbers are divisible by 2. So you know even numbers right off the bat. Those are divisible by 2. If the number is divisible by 3, you can add the digits together and it equals a number that is a multiple of 3. So like 27, 2 plus 7 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, 27 is a multiple of 3. There, see, and it's true for all numbers all the way up to like zillions and zillions. It's a universal fact. So 438, 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 plus 8 is 15, 438 is divisible by 3. You don't even need to do the math, you just know it already is divisible by 3, so it's not prime. Okay, plus it's even, so it's also not prime. So let's say 483. Okay, so that's 3s. 4s are even numbers that if you divide them in half, they're still even. So like 28, you divide it in half, it's 14. 14's even, boom, divisible by 4. Any number divisible by 5 ends in a 5 or a 0. 6s are divisible by 3 and even. So if the numbers add up to be a multiple, like 438, that's divisible by 6 because it's not only divisible by 3, but it's also divisible by, what just happened? My video just froze. What up? Hang on. Hold on. My video just froze. Are we there? Are we there? Are we there? I think we're there. We're there. Hot damn. All right, fixed it. Problem solved. Okay. The kids I tutor are between first grade and 11th grade. They're across the spectrum, but most of them are in that late elementary to early high school realm. So the next rule. Okay, so we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is any multiple of 3 that's also even. So 6 and 3 and 2. That makes 6s. 7 is tricky. 7, you take the last number, double it, and then subtract that number from the other numbers remaining. So like 574. 574, you take the 4, you double it to 8, and you take 8 away from 57. 57 minus 8 is 49. 49 is a multiple of 7, so 574 is a multiple of 7. I just learned that trick a few days ago. That is a great trick to know. 8s are multiples of 4 and multiples of 2. So it's an even number, it's a multiple of 4, and it's a multiple of 2. And then finally, multiples of 9, you add the digits together and they make a multiple of 9. Like 27, 2 plus 7 is 9. 18, 1 plus 8 is 9. 936, 9 plus 3 is 9 plus 6 is, 936, 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. 18 is a multiple of 9. Okay, so that's all of the rules. It go up to 10. If it ends in a 0, it's a multiple of 10. That's all the rules for multiples, right? So if you go down your list like you see a number, you go down the list. Is it a multiple of 2? Is it a multiple of 3? Is it a multiple of 4? Is it a multiple of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? If it's not a multiple of any of those, chances are it's not a multiple. Chances are it's a prime. Also, it gets better. Prime numbers aren't you don't just have to exhaust all the rules of what it could be to determine what it is. Prime numbers aren't simply defined by what they're not. They're also defined by what they are. So prime numbers are, except for two specific numbers, 2 and 5. 2 and 5 are the only prime numbers that are an exception to this. Every single prime number ends in 1, 3, 7, or 9. So if it ends in 1, 3, 7, or 9, it might be a prime number. That doesn't mean it is, but it might be. 25% of all prime numbers, almost 25%, slightly more than 25% end in 1 and 3, slightly less than 25% end in 7 and 9, and 2 of them out of the infinite universe of numbers end in 2 and 5. Literally 2 and 5. Those are the only two. All of the other universe of prime numbers, 1, 3, 7, 9. And the exact percentage is like 25.00003 for 1 and 3, and 24.00009 for 7 and 9. All right. But it gets better because every single prime number is a multiple is a combination of some number times 6 plus or minus 1. I'll let that sink in for a second. Every single prime number is some number times 6 plus or minus 1. Every single prime number. Take 19. 18 plus 1. 18 is 3 times 6. 17. 18 minus 1. 18 is 3 times 6. Let's pick another prime number. 3020. 3022? No, 3023. 3023. 3022 is 3 plus 2 plus 2. 3 plus 2 is 5 plus 2 is 6, 7. That's not a prime number, but it's an even number. 3022 is an even number. It's not a multiple of 6. So 3023, is that a prime number? 3024 is a multiple of 6. And 3024 minus 1, prime number. There you go. 31. There it is, JLM, 31. 3 times 5, or 6 times 5, plus 1. Every single prime number. So there you go. Even prime numbers have a division rule. Even prime numbers have a division rule. And the really cool thing about them, they don't fall in a regular pattern, but they don't fall in a regular repeating pattern, but they do fall into a regular pattern. Because just like with 31, 31 is a prime number, but it doesn't, and most prime numbers come in couplets. They come in couplets. It's 17, 19, 23, but not 25. But then you go up to the other side of 25. You have 29 and 20. 29 and 27 aren't couplets. What numbers am I thinking of? 31, not 31, 33, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 37, and 39. There you go. That's your couplet. They come in little couplets like that. But it's not a regular repeating pattern of couplets. It depends on where your multiple of 6 falls in that thread. Because if it falls close to the 5 or if it falls close to the multiple of 5, you're not going to get a couplet. But if it doesn't fall close to the multiple of 5, you do get the couplet because the 5 blows up the couplet. It's so much fun. It's so much fun studying this shit because every single number that we know, every single number that exists is a combination of primes or is a prime by itself. Every single number. And that it's the building blocks of the universe. And these are the types of patterns in math that I try and teach these kids, that if you know the patterns, you don't necessarily need to know the math. You just need to be able to identify the patterns. And that's how life is in general. If you can identify the patterns, you can avoid the behaviors, you can avoid the stimuli, you can avoid the actions that lead to the patterned outcome. You know that hitting your thumb with a hammer causes pain. You don't need to know why hitting your thumb with a hammer causes pain. You just need to know that action A creates result B and then avoid action A, right? You don't even need to know how to do the math. You just need to know, you could just memorize the tables. You don't need to know how to do the math. You just memorize the tables, recognize the patterns. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, all the way up to a zillion. 5, 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 5, 0. And every other number, you add 1 to the next column. That's it. You don't have to know the damn math. You just need to know the patterns. And that's how life works. That's one of the great things, the sideline benefits of this little tutoring gig that I do is I can teach these kids not just like a life skill of being able to do math, but also a life skill of being able to be like, you know what? Just recognize the damn patterns and then avoid the patterns that cause bad stuff to happen. Do the things that recognize the patterns that cause good things and then do the good things. That's one of the cool things about primes is it's a pattern, but it's a pattern that causes you to stop and think every once in a while, because you can't just go right at it. You can't just go because like 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 1, 31 prime. 30 minus 1, 29 also prime. Yay. 6 times 10 is 60. 60 plus 1 prime. 60 minus 1 prime. But 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 1, 37 prime. 36 minus 1, 35, not prime. You've got to think about this shit. You can't just be robotic about it. You've got to keep your brain plugged in. You got to keep doing it, at least with primes. With all the other numbers, it's straight rote basic math, and it's consistent, 100% consistent all the time. With the prime formula, there is another prime formula. It's much more complicated. The formula is x plus 1, or I'm sorry, x minus 1 raised to the p, the power, minus x plus minus x to the power plus 1. Right? Or is it x to the power minus 1? Yeah, it's x to the power minus 1. So this is how it works. So it's x minus 1 in parentheses raised to whatever your power is, which gets really, 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 really fucking complicated the higher you go. Because x minus 1 squared, easy. X minus 1 to the third, easy. X minus 1 to the fourth, a little bit more complicated. X minus 1 to the 19th, now you have a problem that's 20 expressions long. X minus 1 to the 71st, you have this huge damn result to your formula. It gets bigger, 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 much more complicated. But then the other one's easy. X to the power minus 1, or minus parentheses x to the power minus 1. And then if all of the coefficients, this is foolproof, but if all of the coefficients are multiples of the power, then your number is prime. But that takes a shit ton of computing power. The 6 plus 1, or 6 times x plus 1 is a much easier. 6 times x plus 1, 6 times x minus 1 is a much easier formula. And that's one you can kind of do in your head. You can look at it and go, okay, is this a multiple of 6? No. You don't have to worry about it. Is it a multiple? And there's actually a mathematical proof for the 6x plus 1, 6x minus 1 to figure out why it's 6x plus 1, 6x minus 1. Because here's how it works. You have 6x plus 2 So every number that's a multiple, let's envision all of the numbers as a multiple of 6. There's x, then which is any number x. Then if it's a multiple of 6, it's 6x, right? If it's a multiple of 6 plus 6, then it's 7x, right? Because you've gone one beyond the 6x. So we don't worry about 6x plus 6 because it's just one more x at that point. So 6x plus 2, you factor out the 2 and you have 3x plus 1. And it's obviously a multiple of 2, so that doesn't count. 6x plus 4, you can, again, factor out the 2, and now you have 3x plus 2. You get rid of that. 6x plus 3, the 6x plus 2, 6x plus 3, 6x plus 4. You factor out the 3, and you have 2x plus 1. It's obviously a multiple of 3. 6x plus, you have 2, 3, 4, 6x plus 5. Set that one aside. And then you have 6x plus 1. You set that one aside. You can't factor anything out of 6x plus 5. You can't factor out anything from 6x plus 1. And at that point, you have 6x plus 1 and 6x minus 1. Because 6x minus 1 is 5. 6x plus 1. And then you're left with 6x plus 6. You factor out the 6, and then you have 6 times x plus 1. So there you go. That's the mathematical proof of why it's plus 1 and minus 1. It's fucking fascinating. Fucking love this shit. Love it. That's a large... but yeah, so there you go. The marvels of prime numbers. If you ever wondered, yeah, that's... I mean, I guess this is more about the division rules of prime numbers. But whatever. I don't care. It's fucking fun. It's fun. It's fun, and it gets me excited. And I like talking about numbers a lot more than I like talking about communism versus socialism. But if you want to talk about communism versus socialism, we'll talk about that next week. I'll throw it in there. The original topic for the night was going to be the WWE, the history of the WWE, because I came across an article. I'm like, oh look, that looks interesting. And then I started reading more about the history of the WWE, and I could not have been more bored, more disinterested in fucking musclehead soap opera shit. I just could not. I even tried looking at it from just the business side, and I just could not get interested. I tried to get interested. The article was interesting, but I just could not get interested. I tried. I really did. I tried really, really hard to be interested, but I just couldn't. So let's talk. Let's go into chat. That's my 15 minutes. I'm done. I even had a little technical difficulty there in the middle of it. We had our 15 minutes. Let's move on. I'm going to open up chat. We're going to bring in the chat box. Chat window there. Aha, there it is. Chat window. Little old me, big old chat window. Let me bring up my chat window, and I'm going to go up to where I remember seeing the last one. Jimmy C and Friends was in the, that was the last bit I saw. Jimmy, no, a little bit higher than that. I need to wait for Vanessa because she'll get here. I know she loves math. She's like got her. I thought she was a math teacher or something. Maybe she's just a math number file like me. But this was a brief little rant about the miracle. Okay, here we go. Sunflowers doesn't like mayo. I don't blame you. I didn't eat mayonnaise for a long time. Mayo is for some folks it's an acquired taste. I don't blame people for not liking mayonnaise. I do blame people for liking Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip is garbage. Miracle Whip does go good on macaroni. See, that's just the thing, Jimmy. See, and cheers. Welcome to chat, Jimmy. I don't like macaroni salad. Macaroni salad is what you get when you take all of the best parts of macaroni and cheese and remove them. The cheese, the macaroni, the warm, yummy flavorfulness of a good cheese mixture, the breadcrumbs that you sprinkle on top. And they're like, nah, let's just take the macaroni, cook it, put in some mayonnaise and some seasonings and some celery and some other shit, and then put it in the refrigerator. And here's an even better plan. Let's take it out of the refrigerator, put it on the middle of a picnic table in the sun in June. What could possibly go wrong with putting mayonnaise in a cold dish in the sun in June? Ugh. The thought of it makes me want to throw up a little bit in my mouth. Ugh. Anyway, no, there's nothing good about macaroni salad. There's nothing good about potato salad. There's nothing good about macaroni salad. I like salad. I like potatoes. I also like salmon and peanut butter, but I don't want to put salmon in my peanut butter. I don't want to put peanut butter in my salmon. Potatoes, salad should not match. Should not meet. Ne'er should the twain. Ne'er should they meet in the twain. Is that how it works? Is that? Ne'er should the twain meet. That's the one I'm thinking. Same thing with macaroni and salad. I like salad. I like macaroni, but dude, yuck, that's some white people shit. I'm sorry. That is nasty. Ugh. My shoulder hurts. What grades do I tutor? Anywhere from 5th grade, fourth grade, even 3rd grade. I think the youngest is in 3rd. All the way up to. I'm working on getting my chops a little bit more developed into the high school range. I'm really solid up till about algebra 2, going into pre-calculus and trigonometry is about the edge of what I'm really good at. I need to get up. I need to get my skill set back, polished back off. Get back into the geometry. Get back into the algebra 2, and move my way back up through trig. I can do basic trig in my head. I can do a little bit more advanced trig when I'm actually like thinking about it, but it takes me a minute. The basic trig, SOHCAHTOA, I can do that no problem. Sine, cosine, tangent, secant, all that shit. I pretty much remember the formulas, but not when then you get into the theory of the circle, and now I'm getting rusty, and I can't really remember all the details. Secant, cosine, or cosine, tangent, intersection principles, secant, tangent, intersection. Yeah, that's when I know even just those words lost y'all. But that's where I kind of get really fuzzy, and I got to start going and look that stuff back up. But alternate internal angles, alternate exterior angles, complementary angles, supplementary angles, vertical angles, all that stuff. Yeah, I remember all that. It's a little fuzzy, but I'm remembering it. It's coming back to me. But I'm really solid through algebra and into algebra 2. It's the geometry and trig that I didn't think I was as fuzzy as I was in geometry, but then they were like, "Here, do a proof." I'm like, fuck, can't remember the proofs. But I'm getting better at it. Opposite internal principles of parallel lines and shapes and all that stuff. All that stuff's come back to me. But anyway, all this math thoughts making your brain hurt. And this is where I lost video feed there for a second. I don't know what happened. I must have bumped my desk in a way that caused everything to short out. My computer is I don't know how much I don't know how many more shows I have left in this computer, to be quite honest. JLM is in the house. Cheers, JLM. Yeah. And yeah, there's the proof of the formula. 31, 13, 17, 19, 23, 20, 23, not 24, not 25, not 26, not 27, 20, not 28, 29, not 30, but 31, not 32, not 33, not 34, not 35, not 36, 37, yes, 38, no, 39, yes, no, not 39, etc., etc. 41, 43. But you notice in the 30s, that's where you have your 6. That's where you have your 6-5, 6-6, 6-5, and 6-7, or 6-6 and 6-5 come together right around the 30, 36, 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 6 is 36. That's where you have 30, multiple of 5 and 10. 35, multiple of 5 and 10. And you have to go up past 40. 30 is a zone which has very few multiples or very few prime numbers compared to other 10-digit sets. 42, 40, the 40s have 4, 41, 43, 47, and 49. They have 2 couplets in the 40s. The 30s only have 2 prime numbers in total. So you can never have more than 4 prime numbers per 10, per set of 10. You can never have more than 2 prime numbers, or more than 4 prime numbers, because they're going to be 1, 3, 7, or 9. And I don't think you ever have a set of 10 that has fewer than 2, but I'd have to check my number facts with that one. I'm pretty sure you always have at least 2 for every 10-digit set or 10 numeral set, and you can never have more than 4 in a 10-digit set, except for in the first 10 digits, where you have 2, 3, 5, 7. No. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. Well, 1, I don't think 1 counts as a prime number. 1 and 0 are numbers that aren't technically 1. I get 1's odd, and neither prime nor composite because it's just 1. So you have 2, 3, 5, 7. Well, you even have 4 in the first set, and the only instance of 2 and 5. 2, 3, 5, 7. Yeah. And then in the second set, you have 1 or 11, 13, 17, and 19. You'll never have more than 4 in a set of 10, and you'll never have fewer than 1, and I think you never have fewer than 2. Vanessa Kitty, if she shows up, she'll be able to confirm that. I haven't checked that fact. I haven't checked those facts to be true yet. But where you tend to have 2 is where you tend to have 3 times or 6 times 5. 6 times a multiple of 5. So 6 times 5, 6 times 10, 6 times 15, 6 times 20. That's where you'll only have 2 prime numbers. And it has to do with the way the 6 and the 5 and the 6 and the 10 interact with each other in order to make your 6 times x plus 1 and 6 times x minus 1 work. It's fucking fascinating. The way our universe works is fucking fascinating. Absolutely fascinates me. This stress test program called Prime. One computer stress test is a program called Prime 95. Ooh, really? Even stupid humans are very good at pattern recognition. Yes! Stupid humans are so good at pattern recognition, we find patterns where they don't exist. We find patterns in the clouds and go, oh, that looks like a dinosaur. We see, and the reason why we're very good at pattern recognition is because of an evolutionary trait because the people who recognized patterns for creatures that didn't exist ran away from lions that weren't hiding in the bushes. We ran away from tigers that weren't hiding in the bushes. If you were very bad at recognizing patterns, you didn't run away from tigers that were hiding in the bushes. And if you didn't run away from tigers that were hiding in the bushes, you tended to get killed. But if you did run away from tigers that weren't hiding in the bushes, you survived, but you looked like an idiot. Which is why you have a bunch of people today who look like idiots and not a lot of people who are really chill about that tiger hiding in the bushes because they didn't see the tiger hiding in the bushes. It's an evolutionary trait that we as a species allowed we as a species to survive. We recognize patterns where they don't exist so that we can escape animals, whether they're there or not, that are trying to kill us. But that also means that we recognize patterns that don't exist, and we wear the same pair of socks during a baseball series because we won last night and we want to win again tonight, so we wear the same socks and we continue to wear the same socks until the team loses, and then we change our socks. Or that's how superstitions are born. That's how religions are born. That's how stupid habits are formed. Where you clap your hands and spin around and then it lightnings and you're like, oh, well, shit, if I clap my hands and spin around enough, then maybe it'll lightning some more. And boom, now we have a rain dance. Pattern recognition is something we are so good at, we recognize patterns that don't exist. We invent conspiracies that don't exist because we saw a guy there and a guy there and a guy there and a guy. Well, connect the dots. And you connect dots that have no business being connected. That's why we're good. That's why we're good at nonsensical bullshit like that. Because we are so good at pattern recognition, we recognize patterns that simply do not exist. It simply do not exist. We see two things that happen, and we're like, well, he stubbed his toe after he got the vaccine. So obviously, vaccines cause people to stub their toes. I'm not getting a vaccine because I don't want to stub my toe. Like, that's fucking stupid. But that's how we recognize. That's what we do. That's we as a species. We recognize patterns that simply don't exist. Sometimes that don't exist. That's how good we are at finding patterns. We are so good at finding patterns. The human brain is amazing. Amazing like that. Anyway, let's scroll. A Fibonacci sequence is fun. One of the kids I was tutoring today, she was doing an assessment. One of the problems was a pattern. And they were trying to find, she's like, I haven't studied patterns. I don't remember them. Like, count to 20 by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. Like, there's a pattern. You know patterns. You know this intuitively. Do your assessment. You're doing fine. You got to encourage them. You got to guide them and help them move along their way sometimes. But one of the patterns, the last pattern that she had to recognize, it was 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3 plus 2, 5, 5 plus 8, 11, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, and I kind of looked at, she's like, I don't know what this pattern is. I look over there and go, oh yeah, I know that pattern. And she's like, you know it right away? I'm like, yeah, I've seen that pattern several times. She's like, I don't even know where to start. I'm like, yeah, you do. It was a Fibonacci sequence. I just looked down and it was 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da, just like the Fibonacci. Yeah, and yeah, I don't. When you're helping kids, it's usually not productive to completely blow their minds until after you've taught them the principles of the thing, which will then blow their mind. So, but this was late and I was having fun, and she's a good kid, so it's okay to blow their minds when they're good kids. They hang with you and they keep going. That keeps them engaged. It keeps them exciting. It keeps them interested. But I always tell the story about them when we're doing conversion of units or something like that. I tell them the story like, you've got to make sure you're keeping your units straight, because if you screw up your units, you can ruin an entire satellite on Mars. Like, what? Like, yeah, it happened. An engineer was set something up, and they were using metric units, and the other set of engineers were using English units, and they didn't make the conversion right, and the satellite crashed into Mars. It was their polar observer or something like that. They're like, no way. Yeah, like that's a thing that happened, and you gotta pay attention to this stuff. Like, no, it's crazy. I'm like, yeah, it actually happened. And can you imagine being the engineer that was in charge of the final reconciliation of numbers and units, and you thought you had it right, but you had this nagging suspicion in the back of your head, and the satellite launches, and then 9 months later, the satellite's approaching Mars, and you're doing all your trajectory stuff, and you're like, something doesn't look right, and you double check your numbers, and you realize you made a mistake, and you can't go back and fix it because it's a million miles away. So don't do that. And they're just like moon-eyed looking at you like, oh, I'm like, yeah, check your work. That's all. Just check your work. Write down your units. Check your work. That's all. Your stuff is much simpler than the stuff they're doing with the Mars weather observatory or what was it? It was the Mars orbital something. It was an orbital weather monitor or something like that. Anyway, that's a large set. My spreadsheet. Yeah. So explain why 7 is considered a magical or divine number in the Bible and Torah. Heck, even we have a week based on 7 days. Fun fact about a week based on 7 days. The celestial bodies that we identified from an early stage. There were 7 of them, 7 planets that are visible to the naked eye. Mercury, Venus, or 7 celestial objects that are persistent visitors that are visible to the naked eye. And by visitors, I mean you see them and then you don't see them. You don't see them all the time. Most of the stars we see on a nightly basis or at least a seasonal basis. These other things they come and go every like 3 months. So we see the sun and the moon on a daily basis. Mercury, Venus, then Saturn and Jupiter and Mars. Those were the 7 wandering visitors that we saw every night in the night sky. Every single culture saw these 7 objects on a daily, nightly, weekly, monthly basis. 7 objects. Earth or Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Every single culture on the planet has a 7-day week. And every single culture on the planet has named their weekdays based on these celestial bodies. It is a marvelous coincidence that that's how they did it. The uh, months and days and week and all that other stuff, all the other seven celestial visitors, 7 days of the week. Every culture that had a calendar. Wild as fuck, isn't it? Wild as fuck, isn't it? It is. On the planets visible by the naked eye play. Yep, that's it. 7. That's it. Yeah, it's wild. Like I wondered if I got curious and wondered if that was a coincidence. And for all the research I did was like it said, yeah, that's pretty much a coincidence. That's how it worked. It was a cultural. They that's what they said. Monday is Monday. Let's see here. They named them for different gods in some places, like Thor's Day, Odin's Day, stuff like that. But they were either named for these wandering planets, or they were named. I mean, they were set there for their for based on those wandering, those planetary, those celestial visitors. Fascinating, isn't it? Fascinating, absolutely fucking fascinating. A significantly older girlfriend. I figured out that she was twice my age at the holy shit. Past that time, our ages converged. The wow, 32 years older than you. I had the most significantly older girlfriend than me I've ever had was 10 years. And I don't know if she was so much a girlfriend as just this chick that I dated a couple of times. I tried to date a chick who thought that she was significantly older than me. She was 26 and I was almost 20. I was late into my 19th year, almost into my 20th year, and she was 26 and she's like, "I'm way too much older than you." I'm like, "I don't want to like marry you yet. All I want to do is have some fun." But freaked her out when I ordered a Coke and she ordered a whiskey sour or something like that. I was like, "I want to see your ID." I'm like, "Why?" "I'm driving." And that was literally the only reason why I ordered a Coke that night, was because I was driving and I wanted to keep my senses about me, uh, with the hopes that something better was coming later that night. Um, but I did have another girlfriend who was like 4 years older than me. Yeah, she was a med student. She was like 4 years older than me. Anyway, that was eons ago. I remember Sarah's name. I don't remember the other one's name. Might have been Jen or Jennifer, Jenny, Janie. I don't know. I don't know. She wasn't that important to me. Valid point. Don't want a peanut butter and salmon sandwich. Mm. Now, peanut butter glazed salmon is different than peanut butter and salmon. Peanut butter glazed salmon, you slather that on there, you put it on the grill and let it soak. Oh yeah, that's something right there. You get the flavor. It's like a peanut. is oil and peanut crusted, and how it soaks in. That's flavor. That's flavor. Just like you can take mayonnaise and put it on your steak and grill it. That's the fat content from the mayonnaise getting onto the steak, giving a nice little crust, gives that tang flavor. That's good. That's good stuff. But I don't want you putting I mean, you don't take a nice well cooked steak, which is medium, medium rare to medium. A nice well cooked steak, not well done steak, well cooked steak. Take it off the grill and slather it with mayonnaise. Yeah, and the same thing with salmon. You don't take your salmon off your grill and slather it with mayonnaise. You don't do that. That's icky. That's gross. Yeah. At least I think it's gross. I don't want to do it. It sounds disgusting. I'm guessing you had bad teacher for calculus. I did have a bad teacher for calculus. I had a bad teacher for calculus, but I also had the wrong equipment for calculus, and I just wasn't. I wasn't engaged. I wasn't engaged, and it was my senior year, and I was done. Uh, and as soon as I got behind, I was done. I got behind, and I was like, I can't catch up. I'm out. So I bounced. Uh, but I'm picking the stuff back up. I'm digging back into it, catching up. So figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. Oh yeah. 39 equals 13 times 3. Yes, 39 does equal 13 times 3. Very good. Thank you. And 13 times 3, they are both primes. That is right. That is right. 25.0003% of all the numbers that are prime end in 1. 25.0003% of all numbers that are prime end in 3. 24.9997 end in 7, and 24.9997 end in 9. The balance of those of the totals are 2 and 5. Fucking fascinating. One has a ton of unique mathematical problems. Dude, here's another thing that blows these kids' minds. The concept of zero didn't exist until like 400 AD. The Romans built their roads, they built their colosseums, they built their arenas, they built their temples, they built the Egyptians built their pyramids. All of these ancient structures were built without the concept of zero. The idea that you could count nothing did not occur to these people, which is why accounting systems that predate arithmetic don't include zero. You don't get placeholders in accounting. You have double column addition and double column subtraction, but you don't have, it's not arithmetic. Accounting is not math. Accounting is accounting. It's its own field. It's separate from mathematics. And it's not adding numbers together. It's deducting, it's debits and credits. You have 19 over here and 14 over here. The net result is 5 over here. It's not, but it's 5 over here, but this 14 has to be matched with another 14 over here, and this 19 has to be matched with another 19 over here, and it all has to balance out. It's not math, it's balance. It's balancing. And accounting does that because they don't have zero. They don't have the concept of zero when they're developing the first 2-column accounting systems. The Romans didn't know it, the Egyptians didn't know it, the Etruscans didn't know it, the Persians, early Persians didn't know it, the early Philistines, Assyrians, the Chinese, the Hindus, the Ganges rivers cultures, None of them knew what zero was. They didn't have a concept for it. It took, it was up around 400 AD, 4 or 500 AD in the Middle East when they were developing algebra among the Arabic cultures that they finally figured out this concept of zero, and they were able to say, you know what, we have to have a number for nothing. And just the concept of numbers themselves, the fact that two things, two sheep can be represented by one number. The number two, hell, the number one is a profound concept because one doesn't necessarily have to be one item. It can be one group of items. 5 things put together into a package is one. One now. One can represent 5. One can represent 1,000. One represents a single group. Two is a single thing that represents 2 unique objects. The numeral is detached from the actual object. And if you can convert the object into a numeral, then you can take the numeral and you can convert the numeral and do things to it. You can add to it, you can multiply to it, you can divide it, you can share it, you can supplement it, you can do things to it, and then you can turn it back into sheep. And now it's an 8, and you can turn it into sheep, and it better be 8 sheep. Fascinating. It is amazing. The concept of numbers themselves, the civilizing aspect of the concept of numbers, the multiplying factors that allow people to do more with what they have with the tools at hand that numbers represents is amazing. And this, by the way, is also why we know there were not ancient civilizations 10,000 years ago that grew up and were destroyed by some young Dryas period, whatever nonsensical blah blah bullshit, is because we didn't have those concepts then. These concepts that allow us to do this stuff we have now, and when we got these concepts that allowed us to do this stuff now, we didn't have them back then. And if we didn't have them back then, we couldn't do the things that these human race fan fiction ding-dongs think we could have done, because we couldn't have possibly done that shit that they think they did without the concepts that we had later on. I mean, the only reason why we can do electricity is because we have the concept of numbers. We have concept of numbers, number theory that can translate actual things into numbers, and then we can manipulate the numbers and then turn them back into things. If you can't do that, you can't levitate boulders with your brain banana or whatever nonsensical bullshit. You control waves, and you couldn't even describe waves back then. We didn't have the capability. We didn't have the language. We didn't have written language. You can't pass this down from generation to generation to generation without a written language. Anyway, Joe Rogan's a dingling. So is Graham Chapman. On we go. Like x to the 0 equals 1, like the opposite of 1 over x. Yeah, absolutely. We even make games with 0 pay off, like crosswords. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We play games with numbers. Yeah. My cousin's daughter-in-law passed away. Holy shit, what? So I guess my cousin's daughter-in-law, about to get dark in here, passed away suddenly and unexpectedly, 28 years old, infant twins. My hypothesis is clot shot, but I'm otherwise going to never mention the possibility. Okay, well, yeah, okay. I mean, there's a lot of, yeah. There you go. I don't know what to say about that. Sorry for your loss. It sucks. Infant twins. It sucks. It sucks. Anyway, Mars, planets, China considers 8 the magic number. Do they include Earth? They might. I always screw with people when we go out and we're looking at the planets. And like, there's Jupiter, there's Saturn, that faint little red dot over there's Mars. You can't see Mercury or Venus right now because they're by the sun. So that's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we can see 4 planets right now. And the kids are like, "What's the 4th planet?" And I kind of look down and go, "Oh, we can always see one." um, yeah, it's fun. I like messing with kids. I like messing with kids' brains. We don't need that clipped and gotten out on the goddamn internets. What do you think about a 17? What do I think about a 17-year difference? What do I think about a 17-year difference? It depends on what age you are. Like if you're 20 and she's 3, that's a big damn deal. But if you're 50 and she's 33, that's not that big of a deal. Uh, you know? Or, if you're 17 and she's 34, that's probably a big deal. But if you're 34 and she's 51, that's not that big of a deal. I don't think. It depends on how old you are. The age difference, the bigger the older you are, the larger the age difference doesn't, the less the age difference matters. But that there's limits to that too, because if you're 65 and she's or he or she, you're 65 and the partner in this relationship is what, 81. Yeah, I don't know. That might. I mean, that's between y'all. My name's Paul. That's between y'all. Huh. Top shelf. Justin's in the house. Cheers. Jokic. Who's Jokic? Oh, the NBA. They're still doing their damn finals. I heard an ad for the NBA finals earlier today. I'm like, Jesus Christ! The finals been going on since April. God damn. The playoff season for the NBA is almost as long as the regular season. This is crazy. Absolutely fucking crazy. Anyway, cheers to the NBA. Um, cheers, top shelf. Welcome to the party. We're talking math and pattern finding and all kinds of shit. Um, her no. At her being 32, I would have been 16 at the time. Jesus, dude. I was 23 and she was 39 when we were in. Okay. Yeah, 16 and 32 is gross. 25 and 39, not so much. Or 23 and 39, that's not as gross. That's not as gross. 27, 44, not nearly as gross. Mayo. I'll never be allowed near my home. Are you a Miracle Whip guy, Dustin? Is that what you are? Are you a Miracle Whip guy? I was told once by an ex-girlfriend of mine that there's 2 types of people in the world. There's Miracle Whip people and there's mayonnaise people. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like Miracle Whip. She's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, how the fuck do you know that? I would never mention that in my life to you. And then she got all enigmatic and turned and like just giggled and walked into the other room. Like, what the? Yeah, we broke up. Shortly thereafter, we broke up. Anyway, um, didn't mean to ignore you. Da 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 da. How far back am I in chat? It's almost 11 o'clock there. I'm only 15 minutes behind in chat. 12 minutes behind in chat. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. One is the loneliest number. I am hopped up on caffeine. Anyway, mayo on steak. No, you see but no. Mayo on a cooked steak, no. Mayo on raw steak and then plop it onto the grill, dude. That is way better than you think. I mean, steak and eggs. I mean, all mayonnaise is eggs and oil. And and some seasoning and stuff. And when you marinate a steak, the eggs are just fat and protein content, fat and proteins. And then you add the oil. I mean, put oil, salt, and pepper on a steak. Oh, I guess there's vinegar in mayonnaise too. Eggs, oil. I guess there's vinegar to give it flavor. I think. I don't know. I've never made homemade mayonnaise, but I think there's some vinegar, maybe something in there. Anyway, but that's all it is. You put the oil and eggs. It gives it a nice crust and a flavor. It's really good. It's really good. YouTube it. You can find all the videos of how to cook up a steak using the mayonnaise as a brine. I guess it's a brining as a crusting medium for your steak, a frying medium. That's it. Pan seared mayo coated steak. Anyway, two staples from my fridge right now: milk and eggs. It's amazing what you can't make without milk and eggs. Yep, that's true. Very true. Mayo on anything, no thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of things that mayo doesn't belong on. You can make mayo if you have eggs. That's right. Yeah, that's all. That's all it is. It's just eggs and oil. I think. I think it's just eggs and oil, or is it eggs, oil, and vinegar? Yeah, I mean, y'all tell me in about 10 minutes. I'll see you in a minute. Nothing with milk because I don't bake. Nice low calorie, high protein dinner. French toast, which requires egg whites, and have it with a nice glass of low carb, high protein milk. That actually sounds delightful. How do we define prime? Why can't numbers be numbers and not classified as? Well, there's prime and composite numbers. Composite numbers are comprised of composite numbers are what you get when you multiply prime numbers together. Prime numbers can only be divided by themselves in one. Composite numbers can be divided by more. So, like, 32, for example, is divisible by 2, 4, 32 divisible by 2, 4, 8, 16, 2, 4, 8, and 16. Yeah, and of course 32 and 1. And 16 is 4 times 4, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 32 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Yeah. 4 times 4 times 2. Yeah, it's 2 to the 5th power. 32 is 2 to the 5th power. 2 times 2, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 32 is comprised of prime numbers multiplied by each other. If you multiply 32 times 3, you get 96. And 96 is a composite number, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And that's how you factor composite numbers. You factor composite numbers into their primes. It's 2 to the 5th times 3 times 3. So that's why that you classify those numbers as prime or composite, because when you are reducing fractions, you need to know if, and that's the most common use for greatest common factor and lowest common multiple is simplifying fractions and making fractions with a common denominator so you can add them together. For example, 3/8 plus 5/16. You can't add 3/8 plus 5/16. You have to turn 3/8 into 6/16, and then you get 11/16 out of it. And you can't reduce 11/16 because 11 is prime, even though 16 is composite. So your answer then becomes 11/16. So there you go. But when I'm tutoring, I don't give that answer. I give the explanation of the primes and composites, and then I give the example, 3/8 plus 5/16. What do you do with 3/8 and 5/16? How do you add those together? And then they figure it out from there. And then I make them write it down. Because they'll sit there and look at it and go, write it down. What do you think? Write it down. Turn it into a reality. Turn it into a fact. Write the damn thing down. You need milk for box mac and cheese. Stay on one exception. Well, I'm going to say false on the one exception. You do cook. Fettuccine Alfredo. Ooh, fettuccine Alfredo definitely milk sauce. Not sure I've ever made box mac. You've never made box? Oh, okay. It's possible. I mean, some people have only ever eaten homemade mac and cheese. That's that thing you squeeze. The Velveeta mac and cheese. I got you. I got you. Instant guesses. Been told by the homeless guy that the pyramids had electricity. Yeah, no, they didn't. I'm like, yeah, they're big enough to have a giant Tesla coil inside of them. But they don't. We know this because we can look at them and go to them and see them. And it's just like with the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. There's a large subset of people like, I think that's a petrified tree. It looks like a petrified tree. How do we know it's not a petrified tree? The answer to that question is people have gone to it. They've walked up to it and touched it. You can hold on to it. A petrified tree is made up of certain things. This thing is not made up of those. You can go to it. It's not a mystery. You can walk up to it. You can touch it. You can poke it. You can pick up the rocks off the ground. You can look at the rocks. You can lick them. You can taste them. You can eat them. Don't eat them. But we know what petrified trees are. We've been to petrified forests. You can pick up pieces of petrified trees and look at them and lick them and taste them and eat them and rub them on your skin and put chemicals on them and find out what they're made of. And then go over to the Devil's Tower and do the same thing and go, oh, look, these things are different. It's not a fucking mystery. Same thing with the pyramids. And there's a lot of mysteries about the pyramids, but one mystery that is not part of the pyramids is whether or not they had electricity. They did not. It's easy. You just go there and kind of look and go, where would they have the electricity? Oh, they wouldn't. Okay. And then you leave. Babylon. I think you're right. I think it was Babylon. It was there in that area, Mesopotamia, Babylon. Well, Babylon is where Mesopotamia was. It was in that area of the world. In 200, Eratosthenes devised an algorithm for calculating primes called the sieve of Eratosthenes. How about that, huh? Pretty fucking awesome. We had to invent new math with I numbers to even make the math work. The imaginary numbers. Yeah. For alternating current. That's cool too. That is Vanessa Kitty is in the house. See, you talk math enough, you say math 3 times, and then you turn around and there she is, right over your shoulder, Vanessa Kitty. Hi, Vanessa Kitty. We've been talking math for an hour and change, and we've mentioned your name at least 3 times. So it's about damn time you showed up, kid. Is 27 and 44 a good age difference? I mean, that's a go for it. If I was 44, I would have no problem dating a 27-year-old. If my wife was okay with it. I'm going to pour my last drink. We got about 40 minutes left in the show. I'm going to pour a half shot this time. This is all the whiskey I've had all week. No, I take that back. I've had one other drink this week. Babylonians use base 60 as their numbering system. That's right. That's why there's 60 minutes in an hour. That's why we have 12 hours or 24 hours in a day. But also the reason clocks go clockwise, the way clockwise is around that way on a clock. Well, around that way on a clock. Hold on a second. I'm missing. I never turned on my lava lamp here. And, ow. My I was so out of sorts, I didn't even turn on my lights back here. Anyway, the reason why clockwise is clockwise is because time was in the concept of telling time was invented in the northern hemisphere. If the concept of telling time was invented in the southern hemisphere, our clocks would go backwards to us. Instead of going this way, they would go this way because that's the direction that the shadows move in the southern hemisphere. When you're facing the sun goes the sun. When you're facing the sun in the southern hemisphere, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. But when you're facing the sun in the northern hemisphere, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So clockwise in the northern hemisphere goes from left to right, but in the southern hemisphere, it goes from right to left. So, if clocks were invented in the southern hemisphere, or if the concept of telling time was invented in the southern hemisphere, clockwise would go from this way to this way because that's the way the shadows go. Because the sun rises over here, sending the shadow over there, and the shadows go this way as the sun goes that way. Wild as fuck, isn't it? The Babylonians were dope. That goes back to the reason that the solid rocket boosters on the space shuttle were the size that they are is because the distance between the wheels on Roman chariots was what they were, which caused the wheel grooves in the roads that the Romans built to be the width that they were, which caused the roads to be the width that they were because the roads had to be wide enough for the chariots to be able to pass by each other. Which means that when they built railroads, the railroads had a certain draft, which was about the same size as the wheel width of Roman chariots, because that's where the grooves were in the roads. Because da 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 da. So when we built our railroads, they were the same size as English railroads because that's what they were. So when we built the tunnels had to be the size enough to fit the railroad cars that were the size of the cars because of the size of the rails, because the size of the rails were the size of the chariots back in Roman days. So when we moved the rockets for the space shuttle, it had to go through those tunnels, which were the size they were because of the size of the rails. The rails were the size they were because of the size of the wagons. The wagons were the size they were because of the size of the chariots. Da 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 da. Our clocks go like this because of where time, the concept of telling time was invented. If it was on the other side of the world, it would go the other direction. Wild. Anywho, where are we at? It's possible the angles and such suggest the large ones were like hydraulic rams used for crop irrigation. So a moving magnet can no, 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 no. The Egyptians did not have electricity. No. We know they didn't have electricity because there's no metal. Electricity doesn't flow through rocks. And there was no metal wires, no metal infrastructure, no metal anything. They didn't have kilns. They didn't have furnaces. They didn't have, or at least not metal kilns and metal furnaces. They had kilns and furnaces for bricks, but not for melting metal. They didn't have forges for giant metal infrastructure. that is what would have been required for giant magnets. No, it didn't exist. Ooh, sunflowers wants to know what base 60 is. I'll give y'all a chance. I'll let y'all talk about that in a minute. I'll come back. That's where our time came from. Yep. We use decimal position notation for numbers, which is base 10. Kraft sells mayo with olive oil. We use digits 0, 1, 2, 9. No white cream. Oh my God, Dustin. No whipped cream. Other use angles of hydraulic ram. Not slam dunk evidence of pyramid. There's no evidence. It's not slam dunk nothing. There's no evidence of pyramid electricity. None. 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 Okay, so base 60 sunflowers is so we use 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get up to 9 and you carry the 1 into the next column. And you have a 0, 1. You get up to 9, carry the 1. That's 10. Our number system goes from 0 to 9. And then we move a 1 into the next column. We go 0 to 9, add a number, make it 2, 0 to 9, add a number, make it 3, 0 to 9, add a number to make it 4, etc., etc., etc. And when this number gets to 9, we add a column, put a 1 over here into the hundreds column, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, etc., 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 all the way down the line, infinitely. You just keep adding 1. We add 9. Base 60, and this is the edge of my knowledge, Vanessa. You can correct me when I get wrong here. Base 60 simply means you go up from 0 to 59. And at 59, when you get to 60, you add 1 into the next column. And then you go 0 to 59 again, add 2 in the next column, 0 to 59, add 3 in the next column, 0 to 59. So that's base 60. And it's like we count on our fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They counted on their knuckles. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20, 40. And there was another 20 in there somewhere that made it up to 60. And maybe it was the spaces in between. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think that's how it was. Because the knuckle and the space in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's how you get your 60. Different style of counting. I don't know how they did it. It's completely foreign to me. It's a language that I don't understand. Vanessa, you can fill in the gaps and correct me where I was incorrect on that description of base 60. That's basically what it is. It's up to 60, and then they count 1. So 0 to 60 minutes, you get an hour. 1 o'clock through 1:59, then it's 2 hours. 2 o'clock to 2:59, 3 hours, etc., etc. So there you go. Natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, rational, real, complex, and my favorite, quaternions? Oh yeah. Oh, there's all kinds of sets. Here's the really cool thing about these sets. They're all infinite. They're all infinite and they're all different sizes. Uh, because infinity doesn't equal infinity. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like the set of even numbers and the set of odd numbers are both infinite and they're both equal, right? Because for every even number you have an odd number, right? But the set of even numbers and the set of multiples of 3 are not equal because there's more even numbers than there are multiples of 3, but they're both infinite, so they're also both equal. There's more even numbers than multiples of 3, but those sets are also equal because they're infinite. I love it. Binary math is harder to understand than decimal. Yep. Integral fields. Least common multiple, greatest common factor. And that is a concept that is so hard to explain to these kids because the least common multiple is the largest number that's less than the numbers you're looking for. And I see, I just got that ass backwards. The least common multiple is the smallest number that's greater than the numbers that you're looking for the common multiple of. The greatest common factor is the largest number that's less than. It's counterintuitive. You're looking for a smaller number, but the largest smaller number versus a larger number that's the smallest larger number. And I try to explain to these kids that if you look for the greatest common multiple, you'd be going into the zillions. You couldn't possibly find that number because you can always multiply both of them by 2. And it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. They're like, oh, yeah. Euclid's algorithm. Euclid was a boss. Mayo made from olive pit is not strictly mayonnaise. Okay. Greatest common denominator. Uh, it's a common denominator, not greatest common denominator. GCD. Yeah, I guess it is the greatest. It's the least common denominator because it's also the least common denominator is also the least common multiple. I don't know what GCD is. Oh, greatest common denominator. You don't want the greatest common denominator though, because the greatest common denominator you can always multiply by 2 and get a greater common denominator. Petrified tree is made up of minerals, but it's not stone. It's mineralized wood. It's like stone, but it's not stone. It's a mineral. It's not stone. Versus a basilisk, which is stone. Basilisk, which is stone. It is actual stone. Look at that. Isn't that a fucking awesome sign? I did that. I did that live. And in like 2 hours is all it took me. It's beautiful. I love it. Eat them? Eat them what? Olive oil, mayonnaise, grocery store taste. I don't know what it is I'm eating. I don't remember. Oh yeah, the stones. Yeah, you can eat. I don't recommend it, but you can. Orosthenes, Vanessa Kitty, love me some Vanessa. Sitting at truck yard to pick up brother. I had to junk my trunk. Cheerful than discussing 2020 election fraud. No, there was no election fraud mathematically proven. That's nonsense. We can talk nonsense if you want to talk nonsense, but there was no mathematically proven election fraud in 2020. Sorry. Get better sources. We made a tasty pineapple drink at the cookout. There is such a thing as a pineapple whiskey drink, and I'm going to make it in a couple of weeks. Ever think of a Crown Vic or Chevy Caprice? Yeah, I found Chevy Canyon, and I am saving up for a down payment. Orientation in math and physics, right-hand rule. Yeah, okay, yeah. There's the right-hand rule, but also, when it comes to clockwise and counterclockwise, I'm serious. The clock was determined. The direction of clockwise was determined by the direction of a sundial. Because when the sun's over there, you're in the northern hemisphere, the sun's over there, so you set your sundial here, and the sun rises over here in the west, or rises in the east, so the shadow's cast over here. The shadow goes this way. You have your first hour, second hour, third hour, fourth hour. First hour, second hour, third hour, fourth hour, fifth hour. The clock goes this way on the sundial. That's clockwise in the northern hemisphere. But in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite. It starts over here. It starts over here because that's where the sun rises, and it goes this way because the sun goes back this way. So this would be from right hand to left hand would be clockwise in the southern hemisphere if the concept of telling time had spread from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere, because one would have been on your right and moved left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, until you run out of daylight. That's the direction the sun, the shadow would have traveled in the southern hemisphere, from your right side to your left side. Dude, I'm telling you, guys, the southern hemisphere is upside down and backwards from the northern hemisphere. Their moon is upside down. They have different constellations. They don't have a North Star. They have kangaroos that are assholes. They have fucking wallabies. They have Tasmanian devils. They have spiders the size of a Volkswagen. They have crocodiles. They have all kinds of weird shit in the southern hemisphere. They have toucans. They have toucans and parrots. They have army ants that are this big. The southern hemisphere is weird and messed up. We don't have penguins in the northern hemisphere. They have penguins in the southern hemisphere. Penguins! What the hell is a penguin even? It's a bird that swims like a fish? Come on, man. Make up your damn mind. Fucking southern hemisphere nonsensical bullshit. Don't even get me started on the goddamn southern hemisphere. It's messed up. It's backwards. Everything about the southern hemisphere is backwards. The fact that the southern hemisphere exists is why we know we have a round Earth. The fact that the southern hemisphere even exists is just dumb, mind-boggling. It's ridiculous to normal, sensible, civilized human beings who think about an entire half of our planet that's upside down. I mean, are you kidding me? When they point up, they're literally pointing to the south. And they still say uptown, meaning the north. They don't even know what they're talking about. Ridiculous people. Anyway. Sorry. I don't want to piss off all of Australia, but you know what? What are they going to do about it? They don't even have electricity down there. They're like Amish or something, right? uh, um, you're right. Well, yeah, black holes, they're spinning stars. They're just super dense spinning stars that suck all the light out of that area instead of spit it out. That sets of numbers is always a fun subject to teach. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Bronze Age was what time period? Bronze Age collapse was in the, what was it, 1100s? Wasn't that 1100 BC? The Bronze Age collapse? That would be a fun topic to talk about, the Bronze Age collapse. Because, yeah, like everything was going just fine, and then whoosh, civilization full on collapses. I mean, they think it was a series of cascading famines caused by a volcano. But, yeah, there was Bronze Age, and then there wasn't. And there was a Dark Age for a little period, and then it came back. But, yeah. I mean, we know what it looks like. We know what it looks like when civilizations collapse. We've seen, like, the historical record shows it. For a civilization to collapse and then completely vanish off the face of the earth is nigh on impossible, because civilizations show signs of existence. There's especially advanced civilizations. There's infrastructure. They leave marks, like literally leave marks in the ground from when they quarried stuff and used metals. And we don't have a concept of what a civilization would look like, an advanced civilization would look like, that doesn't know how to use metal. Because if you were a Stone Age civilization, you were not advanced. You were not more advanced than us. You were not as advanced as us. You didn't have technology that was parallel to ours. If you were a Stone Age civilization, you were primitive compared to even a primitive version of us. Like, we know what it looks like when civilizations collapse. Like when the Bronze Age civilizations collapsed, we know what that looks like. There's evidence of that. And, you know, if there's Stone Age civilizations that collapsed, we've seen some evidence of that too. The Druids, like, it was some kind of civilization that collapsed. There's evidence they left behind. We know they existed because we have their evidence. You we have their hinges, their stone, the big ones, Stonehenge. But we have the other hinges, and we have the burial mounds and burial sites, just like in the Americas. We have burial mounds and burial sites and villages and all kinds of stuff. They were not by any stretch of the imagination advanced. They didn't have the wheel. They knew fire, but they weren't advanced. But we see evidence of their existence. I mean, civilizations don't just up and vanish. They they collapse, but even but they collapse, but they don't collapse in a slow, steady manner where the people in the collapsing civilization go and clean up everything that they did and leave their workstations pristine for the next people to come and visit. They just collapse. They don't give a fuck. They're not cleaning up after themselves. They're gone. Just like, when you get hit by the truck, you're not going to like rush back to your house and clear your internet history. That shit's permanent. Somebody's going to see what you've been searching. So, do it incognito, homeboy. Civilizations didn't go back and clear their search histories. They just died. They just died. They vanished. They died. The people vanished, and they leave their markings behind. We see fireplaces and houses and foundations and quarries and work sites and kitchens and stuff like that. We see their stuff. We know that they existed. If a civilization vanishes without a trace, it wasn't a civilization. It did not exist in any permanent sense. Because when they're permanent, they leave tracks. That's how they work. That's how civilizations work. We don't have a concept of a civilization that doesn't leave any trace. That's never in the history of civilization has a civilization existed that didn't leave traces behind that they existed. And we don't know how that works. Because, you eat food, you leave bones. There was never a concept in human history of leave no trace as a civilization. There was never a concept in human history of civilization that had a net zero impact on the environment. That's a modern day idea. That's a modern day concept because in the history of mankind, we've never had that concept in the past, and we're looking at it now, looking into the past, saying, "Oh my God, what have we done?" Because we've left such an indelible mark over the last 100 years that we're like, oh my God, we're actually causing functional damage. And now we're trying to reshape our own civilization so that we'll be a net zero. And that's one of the reasons why it's so fucking hard to do. We've been doing this for 10,000 years and have never, ever once in the history of mankind said, hey, what if we actually took responsibility for our own actions? Never once in the, 7,000 year history of 6,000 year history of civilization have we ever said, hey, maybe we shouldn't spoil the environment that we live in. It never once occurred to us because there was always more environment we had. So it never once occurred to us that, hey, maybe we should not destroy everything. Because, if we shat on everything, we just went to the next town or went to the next river and built another town and shat in that river and then went to the next river and shat in that river and just kept shitting in rivers until we found out that we ran out of rivers to shit in. But, hey, there's always Mars, I guess. String theory will never think so simply, as far as I know. String theory is all but. Yeah, well, I don't know a lot about string theory, but the biggest issue that I know of physics guys that have with string theory is that you can't prove it. There's no way to prove it because it requires exploration of dimensions that we don't have access to. String theory is and forever will be just theory because you can't prove it because you can't go to other dimensions to explore it. So, I think the closest thing they can come to a hypothesis to prove or disprove string theory is that if you have an explosion, a violent explosion with atoms, whatever, and you measure the energy that should be coming from the explosion and energy, you don't measure as much energy as you expect, then there's a possibility that that means that some of that energy bled into another dimension. And that's the closest they can come to a hypothesis that would lead to a proof, but they've never been able to demonstrate a loss of energy from a vigorous explosion. So either they need a better hypothesis and a better experiment, or it's not true. I don't know if there's a third option when it comes to string theory. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I know enough that enough that enough. I know as much about it as you can get from just like the osmosis from being near it. Not really that versed. Um, 12 is handy because it has 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, and 12 number clock face. Right, base 12 is a simplified version of base 60. Um, and that's what it is. So yeah. Digits in base 60 version representations for up to 59. Yep. Babylonians wrote on clay tablets. Yes, they did. Which is really important for civilization to be able to have a writing system that you can hand down information from one generation to the next. It's a way of storing information so that everyone doesn't have to be an expert in everything all the time. You can specialize your behavior and specialize your skills. You can't you but without writing without writing your civilization can't learn specialization. Without writing, let me say that again. Without writing, without some form of written communication, your civilization can't learn specialization. And without specialization, you can't have urbanization. And without urbanization, you can't have markets, you can't have cities, you can't have population centers, and then growth of your um, growth of your civilization. Because everyone has to be a farmer, everyone has to be a handyman, everyone has to know how to cut wood, has to know how to make fire, everyone has to know how to build houses, everyone has to know how to do everything, because you can't tell someone else how to do something because you have to do it. Because you can't write it down and say, here's your instructions. Everyone has to be an expert at everything. So you can't have cities because everyone has to be a farmer. And if everyone has to be a farmer, then no one can be a merchant. And if no one can be a merchant, then you can't have merchant markets. You can't have markets. You can't have cities. These things build on each other. And that's another reason why we know ancient civilizations prior to 10,000 years ago didn't exist, because there wasn't any fucking writing back then. There's no evidence of any form of permanent communication prior to, what was it, the Babylonians, Egyptians? There's no evidence of any permanent communication or communication permanency, like writing. There's no evidence of any of that. Oh, it was all destroyed in the Ice Age. No one. Doesn't exist. It didn't exist. So, bleh, nonsense. Nonsense. What about, was a compass invented? I have no idea. I think the compass was invented in Europe with seafaring nations. And a rudimentary compass was invented by the Danes, I think, which is what allowed them to make their way to all the way to North America, because they used, I think they used shadow of the sun as a rudimentary compass to be able to maintain their bearings east and west. And I think they expanded on that by using the angle of the shadow, the length of the shadow on their compass. Their compass was a combined north gauge, using the shadow to determine which direction was north and which direction was east, and then the length of the shadow to determine their latitude as well. I think it was the Vikings. the Scandinavian peoples. I don't know if China had invented the compass before the Danes, but if the Chinese did it, they kept it to themselves. So, um, countable sets and uncountable sets. I think Greek domination time for magnetic compass. I don't think the Greeks came up with the magnetic compass. That's a good question. Let's find out. Hey Siri, when was the compass invented? The magnetic compass was developed in 1190. A compass is a device that shows cardinal directions used for navigation and geographic orientation. It commonly consists of a magnetized needle. Da, 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 da. It was discovered or invented in 1190. Who invented it? See more on Wikipedia. A compass is a device, blah, blah, blah. Compasses, blah, blah, blah. Among the four great inventions, the magnetic compass was first invented as a device for divination as early as the Chinese Han Dynasty since 206 BC and later adopted for navigation by the Song Dynasty during the 11th century. The first usage of a compass recorded in Western Europe and the Islamic world occurred around 1190. Non-magnetic compasses. Gyro compass, GPS receivers. See, I thought the Danes used a shadow-based compass. Let me see. Danish Viking compass. Let me see. If I spelled Viking correctly, that would help. A Viking compass. Let's see. The truth of the Viking compass. The Vegsvir is a commonly used Viking symbol that meant to stop people, blah, blah, blah. It's an Icelandic stave? No, that's not what I'm talking about. It's a magical thing. No, I thought they used a shadow-based. No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am incorrect. Maybe that was just look that up. Shadow compass. The shadow stick, the method known as the shadow stick, can be used. Shadowboard compass. Yeah, Viking sun compass. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, here we go. Viking sun compass. A shadowboard is a non-magnetic compass that uses the sun as a principal way to determine direction. Blah blah blah. Navigation is by far one of the most underappreciated survival skills in modern times. Blah blah blah. Simple sun compass using a shadowboard. Yes, recommended gear. This is like a Boy Scout page. Element bushcraft. So it's called the Viking Sun Compass for a reason. Let me look that up real quick. Viking, K-I-N V-I-K-I-N-G, Sun Compass. Viking Sun Compass. That's what I was trying to find out. Viking Sun Compass, physics.org. Viking navigation. So this dates back to long before the 1100s. I'm trying to find a good article. I have to scroll a lot to find a good fucking article for this. Where is it? Gizmodo orientation. So while except the Vikings use a sun compass to derive true direction from the cast shadows. Okay, so there you go. I'm not off base entirely. So the age of the Viking exploration would have been Vikings in North America. The Norse colonization of North America was over 1,000 years ago. Yes, we know this. For almost 500 years. Historiography? Is that what I'm looking for? Norse colonization of Greenland, 980s. So this was in the 900s when the first compasses would have been used, but those compasses, not a magnetic compass. The first magnetic compass would have been 1100, as we said earlier. But the first compass would have been the sun compass, and that would have been in the 900s. So there you go. There you go. Greatest common divisor. Okay, so the greatest common divisor is that's what you get. That's what you use to get the uh, uh, greatest common multiple, or least common multiple for that matter. Greatest common factor. Anyway, Rosne's. Professional statisticians put up videos in less than a month after the electile mod. I have seen so much about the supposed fraud from 2020, and it was all. It does not take a whole lot to identify bullshit. I mean, there's a reason why Dominion is getting paid billions of dollars, or I guess multi-hundreds of millions of dollars from Fox for claiming fraud in the 2020 election. There was no fucking fraud in the at least no statistically significant fraud in the 2020 election. There's always a little bit of errors and miscounting, and a handful of people who do nefarious things. But yeah, there was no significant fraud in the 2020. No fraud significant enough to alter any outcomes, which is all that matters. If one person votes twice, it doesn't make a big fucking deal if the margin is 10,000 votes. One person voting twice is not going to affect an election where the margin was 10,000. So, no, there was no fraud in 2020. And no, I'm not going to Google the videos because it's fucking bullshit. There's no. I mean, I've seen all the videos, or not all the videos. I've seen the arguments. They're bullshit. They're all fucking bullshit. It's nonsense. And what do we do with nonsense? We don't debate nonsense. There's a way to deal with nonsense. When somebody says nonsensical stuff, you say no, that's nonsense, and then you move on. That's it. It's just nonsense. I'm sorry, I'm not going to debate it. It's not a discussion. It's not a discussable, debatable topic. Like oh, the Earth is flat. No, it's not. That's the end of the debate. It's not. That's it. You're done. That's the end of the debate. This isn't a debatable topic. Elephants are made of gravy. No, they're not. Yeah, they are. No, they're not. That's not a debatable topic. We're not going to debate this topic. Move on. Elephants are not made of gravy. They might be made of Jello, but yeah, no. Why do we choose north, south, east, and west? I have no earthly idea. I don't know why we use those words north, south, east, and west. I have no earthly idea. We have koalas with visually stoned off their. Yeah, it's true. What is your orientation of space? Orientation of space doesn't mean anything. Although it does seem that within systems there is a handedness in space. There's a right-handedness and the left-handedness in space. It does seem, because and it has to do with the way the galaxy rotates. Because if the galaxy rotates a certain way, everything inside the galaxy tends to rotate the same way. Tends to, not always. That's why we can look at Venus and say Venus appears to be moving backwards because it rotates one time around its axis. It's almost going backwards, almost, not quite. And that's how we know that what is it, Uranus or Neptune is on its side because it's rotating. But it seems to be consistent, and it has to do with the rotation of the galaxy. Because if you find a galaxy that's upside down or on its side, everything is rotating the same direction within that galaxy too. It seems they theorize, but it seems like everything's on the same plane or nearly on the same plane. So it's like everything seems to be rotating in the same direction. But if the galaxy's on its side, then it's on its side. So there you go. 1132. Before that, Babylon era in the 400s. Black holes are collapsed stars with large singularities. Vanessa Kitty's about to roll. Vanessa Kitty's driving. Drive safe, Vanessa. Bye. Important, basically a point mathematically. Mathematical ideal, we honestly don't know. The point makes approximation of understanding. Oh, where'd it go? Important, basically the point. Mathematical ideal, we honestly don't know. Possible drive safe. Yes, please drive safe. Not a controlled demolition. Sunflowers is getting going. I think you're going off to go see Ike and M's. That's fair. It should be about the time for his stream to start. It should be about time for me to wrap this up too. It is 12:04. So I'm going to go for another 5 minutes and catch up to. I will not ever try blue potato salad. Thank you very much. In China, during the Han Dynasty between 2nd BC and 1st century AD, when it was called the South Governor. That is right. We just looked that up on Wikipedia. But that was the magnetic compass. The Vikings did it with their sun compass, and the first European use of the magnetic compass was in 1100. The 10th century, or 12th century. 10th century? Whatever I said earlier, I don't remember. Oldest writings about 10,000 years ago in India. Yeah. First compass invented in China during the Han Dynasty, 2nd century BC. 1st century AD was principal histories much longer. Chinese never really wanted global. I know the Chinese, like, there's a lot of people that discovered the Americas before the Europeans discovered the Americas. Ones to do anything with it, like steam energy, steam power. Steam was discovered by the Egyptians in like 4000 BC. Like, they knew that you could use like steam to hold hemispheres together. Heat up two brass balls or two brass hemispheres with a gasket in between them, and then smoosh them together. And as the steam condensed, it would like suck them together, and it would hold them together, and then you wouldn't be able to pull them apart. It was like a party trick, but they didn't do anything with it. It took until 1600 AD. Not 1600, 14. Yeah, no, it was 1600 AD for the English to do something with steam power and commercialize it. That's why steam power isn't the most powerful idea ever. It's the idea of the patent, which is the most powerful idea ever. Because that patent allowed these people to make money off of the steam engine. Anyway, the compass with a sextant and an accurate method of timekeeping. Distant navigation is more luck than skill. Okay, yeah, compass without a sextant. Yes, it is more luck than skill at that point. Yes, very, very true. I was about to say, no, navigation is total skill. But yeah, without a sextant, without timepiece, yeah, it's definitely luck. But when you're in the outback, when you're in the wilderness, when you're in the it's the wilderness areas, in the national parks and stuff like that. Navigation is straight up skill. I mean, to be able to identify landmarks and know I mean, it's a learned skill. It's not pure luck. It's a learned skill. You got to practice it. You got to practice it. If you don't practice it, and you're not. If you don't practice it, you're not good. You got to pay attention to your surroundings. You got to pay attention to where you're going and where you've been. I don't know. I've been munching on chocolate covered almonds. Now I'm out of almonds. But yeah, it's a definite skill. But on the naval navigation, without a sextant, without a timepiece, that is pure luck. You know which direction you're going, but you don't know where where you're at, north and south, longitude, latitude, or anything like that. That is straight up luck. When you're just walking around, when you're hiking around, yeah, you don't have to worry. You're not changing latitudes and longitudes that much. You're staying, yeah, you're good. Um, yeah, for a very long time they stayed with them. I mean, it was for the Europeans. It was until the 1400s, really. I mean, even when the Portuguese were going all the way over to the West Indies or East Indies, they stayed along the coast of Africa, up along the coast of the Middle East, along the coast of India. They stayed along the coast. It wasn't until the 1400s when Columbus launched off across the when Columbus launched across the Atlantic Ocean that Europeans, for the first time, left the shore. They were hugging the coast. That was one of the first times that a European left the coast and went into the middle of the open ocean. That was unheard of. I mean, they had gone around Africa and off to the Indies, but for the most part, going off to the Indies, they were hugging the coast. They did not just go wandering off into the ocean. That sextant and the ability to tell time, the ability to know your latitude and longitude at the same time was huge. Doing it with a damn shadow board was a huge deal. For them to figure out that the shadow cast by the sun was a different angle depending on where your orientation on the globe. Like if you're up here, the shadow was short. No, if you're up here, the shadow was very long because the sun was down here. If you went down here, the shadow got shorter. For them to figure that out was a huge deal because they didn't go very far south. But for them to figure out that, if that shadow stays the same length, if it's hitting your compass is right here, if it's casting a shadow this way, I'm going the right direction. And if the shadow stays in the same spot, then I'm on the right line. So I'm staying, I'm heading straight east or straight, big damn deal. And plus, it doesn't hurt the fact that they were way far north, and the Earth is smaller up there. On account of it being a globe, it's smaller up here than it is down here. I mean, if you got to cross the ocean at the equator versus the ocean at the Arctic Circle, I mean, you're most of your work's already been done for you. um, still in courts. It is not in courts in Detroit. That is nonsense. It's not a debatable topic. I'm not debating this topic. There is no, and it's not even agree to disagree. It's you are wrong. It's not. It's not. We think it's not differing opinions. You are not participating in reality. There is not fraud from the 2020 election. It is not in courts in Detroit. It is not being. Now, there is one significant court case about fraud in the 2020 election, and it's about the loser in that election attempting to perpetuate fraud by trying to influence election authorities in the state of Georgia. So there was one specific case of fraud which will very likely have criminal consequences. At least at this point, have high likelihood. I don't know if it's very, but it's a high likelihood of criminal consequences. So there's one specific case of fraud where somebody called up the attorney general and said, "Hey, come up with some votes that don't exist." There's one case of fraud. One. So if you want to debate the topic, that's a debatable topic. The debatable topic is whether or not that'll actually result in criminal prosecution rather than just a criminal investigation. Because right now it's just a criminal investigation, and it's an open question as to whether or not it'll be a criminal prosecution. But to debate whether or not there was fraud, like, no, there wasn't. Like in 59 states, there was no fraud. There were instances of people trying to perpetuate fraud by creating false election panels or false slates of electors. There was fraud in, I believe, Arizona, and I believe there was fraud in Michigan where they tried to present fake electors. But I don't think it's the fraud that you think there was, because the fraud that actually happened was the losing party trying to perpetuate fraud against the United States by presenting a fraudulent set of electors, but not like voter fraud. There wasn't any voter fraud, or at least not any significant voter fraud. That's not a debatable topic. That's like debating whether or not 2 plus 2 equals 93. It doesn't. That's not a debatable topic. 2 plus 2 does not equal 93. And it's not even agree to disagree, because 2 plus 2 does not equal 93. And you can't say 2 plus 2 does equal 93 and 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 93, and both of those two things existing in the world together simultaneously, because one of them cannot exist with the other one because they are diametrically opposed to each other's. The one existing negates the other, and the other existing negates the one. You can't, it's not, that's not even an agree to disagree. It is or it isn't. And that's it. That's it. The Wright brothers invented the airplane. You can't say they did and not, you can't say that they did and they did not and just agree to disagree, because they did. If they did not, it negates them doing it. If they did, it negates them not doing it. Those things can't exist at the same time. It's impossible. Which is why even that's not, there are certain topics that aren't debatable topics, like reality. Reality is not a debatable topic. Either is or it isn't. And then if it isn't, then there's some other reality. And you can't agree to disagree in two different realities at the same time. They just don't. So, I mean that's where it is. You can, if that's what you want to believe, then you're believing something that is wrong. That's just all it is. It's just not true. It is an untrue concept. That's all. And you can do it. You can agree. You can believe in an untrue concept. But it's not an agree to disagree thing. It's you believe something that is false. Like 2 plus 2 equals 93. That's all it is. And then we clink our glasses and move on. That's it. But I said that was going to be my last drink. So I'm going to catch up to chat. Where are we at in chat? 2:15. I'm just about 15 minutes behind. Oh, not bad. Our moon is also way strange since the same side faces. Yeah, but it still rotates in the right direction. It still rotates clockwise. It's the same. It rotates in the same direction as Earth. It just rotates in the same direction as Earth, slower. Is that right? Yeah, because we rotate this way and it rotates this. No, it rotates opposite of Earth. I don't know. I'd have to look at the math. I can't remember. But yeah, our moon is super duper strange. But it's also fucking awesome because it's beautiful. It's beautiful and it's big. It's got a big old crack down the middle where there's a little circle in the middle of the crack where poop comes out of. The only person who voted for Trump. You were the only person who voted for Trump. The 2016 election was completely stolen, and I ran out of time to vote more into it. Oh, Jesus, that's fucking awesome. Goodness gracious, that's a good one, Dustin. You made me laugh out loud, literally laugh out loud. Now I would have been interested to see a deeper dive into the vote counts in 2016. There were some statistically curious outcomes that should be studied more, just for the edification of statisticians. I mean, we had, what was it, 4 states that fell within the margin of error of polling, but opposite of how it was predicted. So like it was predicted to be 2% one way. It ended up being 2% the other way, uh, which is statistically fascinating. It's it. I mean, it would be really cool to see more data and more detail about how that happened. That it was within the margin of error to the other direction of how it was predicted, but not so close. But it was a wide enough margin that it didn't automatically trigger a recount. You know, it was within the margin of error, but broad enough that it didn't automatically trigger a recount in 4 specific states. And it just so happened to be the 4 states that Paul Manafort gave the internal polling information over to Alexei Deripaska. Fascinating. Hella coincidences. But you see, that's how people are. People identify patterns where there aren't necessarily patterns that exist. We identify patterns that don't exist. And maybe there was no pattern there to exist. It's a curious coincidence, and then another curious coincidence, and then 2 more curious coincidences after that. But does that mean there's a pattern? Not necessarily. And that Texas was a 2 percentage point variance for Ted Cruz versus Beto O'Rourke. That same year, 2 percentage points. Skin of his teeth in a state like Texas. Fascinating. 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 And that Ted Cruz was so closely connected with um, with that analytics company, Cambridge Analytica. He was so closely connected with Cambridge Analytica that went over to help the Trump campaign. It was helping the Mercers were helping Cruz before the Mercers were helping Trump after the convention. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Not suggesting that there was any impropriety. I'm just suggesting that that is a statistical gold mine, something that should absolutely be studied deeper and with great interest for statisticians, just for the mathematical curiosity, just because it would seem uh, it, it would just seem like one of those statistical anomalies that you would just be like, when is the next time this is ever going to happen? Like, this has never happened before. When's the next time this is going to happen? This should be studied in depth. This is so cool. It's so cool. Tell me more. Tell me more. I want to know more. Like, how could the polling guys have been so narrowly wrong for exact times in the 4 exact states that were internal polling data was handed over to Alexei Deripaska? Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. But, that was what, 8 years ago now? 7 years ago? It's 23. That was 2016. That was 7 years ago. I mean, that's like yesterday's news. Why even bother digging through the statistical analysis? I mean, what would we do if we did find out that in 2016 4 states were manipulated? The actual voting outcome was manipulated in 4 states. What would we do today? I mean, there would be nothing we could do. It's not like we're going to go back and redo it. So it would be, other than for the mathematical edification for everybody, it wouldn't uh, it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference. It would just be curious, a curious statistical anomaly to dig our way through, because that's what I mean. Like, legit, that's like Occam's razor says. That's likely what it is. The most obvious answer is that it was just a statistical curiosity. You do this shit enough, you get a statistical curiosity. And it's just something that you would want to dig into and find out what it is. Like, that's likely nothing. Like I said, likely nothing, but absolutely fun to you're fun to say. It's just like if you flip a coin 10 times and you get heads 10 times. Be like, that's a cool thing. This is how it happens. And find out how it happens. And then you be done. And then you move on to the next thing. And then you move on to the next thing, and you move on to the next thing. So yeah, fun, fascinating, all kinds of fascinating stuff. So Such a load off to have admitted it finally. Now that anyone can do the job poorly. Yeah, well, actually, that is something that is definitely that came out of that little period. Is that it should dispel the myth that it takes a remarkable individual. Uh, uh, you don't have to be super intelligent. You don't even have to be super competent. You just have to you just have to be smarter than about 70 million people because there's at least 70 million people who are dumb enough to vote for you. In both parties. There's at least 70 million people who are dumb enough to vote for you in both parties. Geolocation. Um, geolocation. Yeah, that is a $10 word. That's a good word to have. Um, uh, flag. Da, 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 da. Did I say 59? I meant 49. You know what I meant. Um, there are people stating that we live in a simulation. I All right, it's after midnight. We need to wrap this up. So people living in a simulation. I've seen a lot of that come up, especially in the last 5 years. Us living. How would we know we live in a simulation? And would there be any evidence that we do live in a simulation? Um, I don't think we do. Although it's possible, because if the Big Bang was a collapsing star, like here's one theory. Like we think the science says the Big Bang was the explosion of a super dense uh, singularity into everything, right? There was the inflation, and with the inflatatrons or whatever they called it, the inflation, the coagulation, and then the uh, growth of the universe as we know it. What if, rather than the Big Bang, what we had was the collapse of the universe into a black hole, and what we see is the projection of that information that collapsed in the black hole onto the surface of the event horizon of the black hole. Like that would be entirely plausible and entirely possible. Like what we're existing in is the end of the universe. Like everything collapsed into the black hole because according to Hawking and Hawking's radiation theory is that matter doesn't get destroyed, it just gets converted. So then in the black hole, as everything's falling into the black hole, like the information has to be there. And in theory, at least, the information that falls into the black hole would then be projected on the surface of the black hole, the event horizon. And that's what we would be seeing is the cosmic background radiation, and the super distant galaxies and systems that we see. That's just on the edge, and that's why we can't see past it because light can't get outside of the singularity, outside of the event horizon of the singularity, right? So we wouldn't necessarily be living in a simulation, but we would be um, living in a black hole's reproduction of the reality that collapsed into the black hole, right? Follow me so far? You with me? And this is an agree to disagree type of thing because this is 100% theoretical. Like you can't prove this right or wrong. Like it's theory. Like maybe, okay. That would be the closest we could come to a simulation, I think. The alternative would be that we're like in a giant computer simulation, everything's being rendered and whatnot. But there's no evidence of that because there's no like glitches or anything like that. Even the best computer simulations have glitches, right? Because the servers can't work forever. They've got to go down. They've got to be replaced. Da, 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 all this stuff. There's no, even if it was a really good simulation, it's never 100%. Like you can't perfectly code everything all the time. And further, if it was a really good simulation, there'd be no way to prove it. There'd be no way to prove it. So it's like, so what? But I think the closest approximation to a simulation we could come to, if it were a simulation, the best guess would be that instead of a Big Bang, this was a collapsed into a black hole, and our universe is really a black hole. That's possible, not likely, and there's no way to prove it. And we can agree to disagree about that. But I fall back to the Cartesian postulate that I think, therefore I am. So we can call it a simulation if we want. You can call it a simulation if you want. But when it all comes down to it, I think, therefore I am. At the very base of it, the table can be programmed, the microphone can be programmed, the chair can be programmed, the walls can be programmed, everything can be programmed, but where I can't control anything else around me, where I can't control what it is I feel, what it is I sense, what it is I touch, what it is I taste, what it is I see, I can think and I can control my own thoughts, which is the Cartesian postulate that I think, therefore I am. Because as long as I can control my own thoughts, then I know that there's at least one thing that's not being programmed except by me. And if I'm programming that, then I can presume that I at least have agency within that which is around me. And Descartes formulated this postulate based on a philosophical question of whether or not God created the universe around him. And that's the same idea as living in a simulation, because if God creates everything around us, that's literally the same thing as saying someone programmed our surroundings and we're living in someone else's programmed data, whether it's God or a great coder or whatever. Descartes was able to come down to the basic postulate of when you strip away everything else, you strip away the natural world, you strip away the man-made constructed world, you strip away the adornments of clothing, you strip away the flesh, you strip away the sensation, you strip away the observation, you come down to the basic core of mankind, which is, I think, those are my thoughts, therefore I am. And that's it. So that's the only argument I have. That's the best argument I have against a simulation, is that ultimately I think, therefore I am. So there it is. But yeah, you're right. If it is a simulation, then nothing matters. You can just jump off a cliff and respawn. But people don't respawn, at least not in this game mode. That's not to say that you don't respawn in another game mode. You go from this game mode to another game mode when you respawn, like in Minecraft Hardcore. You lose this map, but you show up in another one. It's entirely possible, I guess. But like I said, this is the sort of thing we can agree to disagree on. This is true philosophy. This is true philosophical questions where we can agree to disagree. This is not, debating whether or not 2 plus 2 equals 93. That you can't disagree on that. You can't agree to disagree on 2 plus 2 equals 93. It's just not. But you can disagree. I mean, this could be a fun, lively debate. Are we living in a simulation? Maybe I'll do a show on are we living in a simulation? That'd be a fun one. The Cartesian principle of are we living in a simulation? I can combine the two together just like I did now. That'd be fun. I think that would be fun. That would be entertaining, at least to me. It still matters to you. Yeah, especially like again with Minecraft Hardcore. It matters to you. Like you lose your map if you die in Minecraft Hardcore. And that matters. A coincidence that the sun and moon appear yet strangely yet wonderful. That is a fucking amazing coincidence. that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, and the moon is just 400 times or 1/400th the distance away from Earth that the sun is, which allows the moon to be the same size as the sun because of geometry. That's fucking awesome. If we're all simulated, the rules of the simulation could be changed on the fly, which would be like waking up. And that's right, we could, but there's no evidence that that has ever happened. So again, probably not a simulation. Um, um, the mathematics talk was fun, the engineer mindset. Otherwise, still be playing equations with the middle schoolers. Applying mathematics is where it's at. Applied mathematics is a ton of fun. But like I said before, accounting is not technically mathematics. Accounting is just balancing. It's balances. Because you don't. How do I describe this? Accounting is moving numbers from one. It's two column accounting. You have 19. It has to be balanced with a 19 somewhere else. Then you put a 15, and that 15 has to be balanced with a 15 somewhere else in the opposite column. And then your 15 and 19 get balanced over here, and your 15 over here, and your 19 over here, or your 19 over here, and your 15 over here. And then like everything gets balanced out that way. It's not true mathematics. It's related, but it's not. And I think accounting predated arithmetic. Like the development of arithmetic as a science came after the development of accounting as a practical application, because commerce predated philosophy. Commerce predated the science and theory. Like, people had to sell sheep and goats and shit like that, and they had to record their sales of sheep and goats and shit like that, and they had columns for that: sheep and goats and shit like that. And all that stuff predated dudes in robes sitting around going, well, what if we divided numbers in half, and then divided them in half again, and then divided them in half again? And everybody was like, dude, Pythagoras, you're in your cups. Because that's what Pythagoras did. He drank a lot. Equations is a fun game. Yeah. Looky there. I've caught up on chat. All powerful God, everything is just predetermined. Well, exactly. We're living in God simulation versus the coder simulation. That is exactly what I was talking about. That's the Cartesian philosophic principle, that we're just everything is told to us. We're told what this feels like. We're told what this is shaped like. We're told what that feels like. We're told what that looks like. Like, everything is dictated to us by an all-powerful God. But there's one thing that we have. One thing that short circuits all that. And that's our ability to think, our ability to reject what it is that we feel, our ability to look at reality and say, that's not a thing. This other thing is the thing. See what I just did there? The ability to think, our ability to think negates the notion that we live in a simulation, that somebody's programming our thoughts. We're able to we have agency. And if we have agency, then we're not a part. We may be in a simulation, but we're not a part of the simulation. We're viruses. We're rogue code, if you will. Then our thoughts are predetermined and coded too. But that's the thing. If we think, then the all-powerful God does not code our thoughts. If we think, then we're not being programmed. I mean, arguably, we're programmed by our environment and our history and our surroundings. But we can reject that programming and write new programming. We don't have to be a product of our history. That's the story that we write every day. That we don't, you can grow up in a racist household, but you don't have to be racist. You can grow up, as a elitist, uh, uh, some kind of rich snob elitist piece of shit douchebag, but you don't have to be a rich snob elitist piece of shit douchebag. You can grow up as poor gutter trash, but you don't have to be poor gutter trash. You see what I mean? We are, we have agency. We have the ability to self-determine to an extent. Um, not everybody gets to be an astronaut. Not everybody gets to be a king. Not everybody gets to be a senator or president or whatever. But you have the agency to choose to not act like that which you were born into. You have the agency to act like a boy or act like a girl or live up to the societal norms that are placed upon you as a man or a woman. You live up to the societal norms that are placed on you as a business owner or an accountant or a lawyer. Or say, what, the society wants me to act like this as a lawyer. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna wear jeans and t-shirts to court. Whatever. You have that agency. The court may say you're not allowed to be in here in jeans and a t-shirt. You have to leave, but you have that agency to do that. You don't have agency to avoid consequences of your actions, but you definitely have agency to choose your actions, which short circuits the idea that we are part of the simulation. If we live in a simulation, then we are rogue code within the simulation because we have agency. No, yeah, just like you say, we are in a simulation. We're not part of it. That's the presumption. At least that's the presumption that I'm moving towards if there's a simulation. But I still do, I still reject the notion that there's a simulation. Um, but see, yeah, I mean, you can always go down that next level. God programmed us to think that we're thinking. God, because you can put that code into AI that you can let AI think that it's thinking that it's one step removed, two steps removed, three steps removed from its overseers, but ultimately the overseer still has the ability to control the AI. Ultimately, there's always a failsafe. There's always a kill switch. There's always some kind of uh, apocalypse button or whatever. But uh, eventually you have to get to the last turtle. A turtle on top, a turtle on top, a turtle on top, a turtle. Eventually, you have to come to your last turtle, uh, and eventually, you have to come to the point where there's no more layers to dig under. We are actually the ones doing the thinking. Eventually, you have to. Otherwise, and if you don't, if there's always another layer, if there's always another turtle, then there's your God. That's your God. Your God is the next turtle, or the last turtle, the controlling turtle. Uh, this implies that time is linear as well, which isn't true with an all power. Yeah, with an all powerful God, with the concept of infinite time, with an all powerful, all present, all knowing God, time is infinite, and if He is in all places at all times, then He is both here now and in the future and in the past, which means time is non-linear for Him in His dimension, which means He is both past and present and future, which means being out of this dimension with Him is in a timeless void because He's simultaneously in all times at once, which means time has no meaning. Um, so, with an all powerful, all present, all knowing God, time also has no meaning, uh, which means there's a dimension beyond our time where that entity would exist. And the question is whether or not that entity can exist in that time and influence ours at the same time, which is another metaphysical question, which I am not equipped to discuss tonight. because I have not had nearly enough alcohol to even begin to comprehend that. But that's another debatable topic and another agree to disagree type of proposal. I'm going to have just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Because it's what? 12:42. I got 15 minutes and we'll wrap this up. Since I've caught up on chat, I'm not even going to have a whole shot. Just a quarter of a shot or half a shot. We are not in a simulation. There is no God. And boom, we did. Well, you see, yeah. I mean, there's a significant argument to be had that God is a construction of man, and therefore God can exist. In fact, many gods can exist, but my God is simultaneously all powerful, as is your God simultaneously all powerful, because my universe and your universe can coexist together. There's, I mean, that's a fair, because the modern day Christian argument is that God is a personal, you have a personal relationship with God, and if you have a personal relationship with God, then my God is not the same as your God, in the same way that your personal relationship with your wife is a different personal relationship than she has with other people. So my wife to me is not the same person as my wife to the students that she teaches at her school, or her best friend, or her mom or her dad or her sister. Their relationship is different. The nature of their relationship changes the entity that she is in relation to them. Which is to say that even if the same God has a relationship with me and a relationship with you, to you, he is different than he is to me. So that doesn't mean that he doesn't exist. He just means that he's a personal creation for me and a personal creation for you. And even if he's the same creation, he's different the way we relate to him. A different God than what the Bible teaches. A different God than what the Quran teaches. A different God than what a lot of religions teach. But not incompatible with all of their teachings at the same time. Different, but not incompatible. Fascinating, but another debatable topic. We can agree to disagree. Can we agree to disagree and call ourselves Christians at the same time? I don't know. There comes a point where you have to decide if the God you're describing is a Christian God. And if the two different gods you're describing meet the standard of being a Christian God, and if the both gods that you're describing both meet the standard of Christian gods, and you can call yourselves Christians, that's a whole nother metaphysical debate that's outside of my pay range at this point. I don't know, but this is the type of shit we used to talk about in bars all the time. This is the type of shit that's a fun fucking conversation. This is the type of shit we should have a panel, like 6 people up here talking about it. Like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Okay, let's move on to the next topic. That'd be a fun fucking conversation. Like, is it possible to have 6 different personal Christian gods and still be considered Christians amongst yourselves? All powerful God and free will. Once I realized they can't exist together. Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's tough to reconcile that notion that an all-powerful God grants free will, because that limits his power, right? Because he can't control you, so he's not all-powerful. But on the other hand, only an all-powerful God could grant free will. It's very, I mean, it creates levels of complexity that you have to be flexible enough to be able to explore and think about. And there's been 2,000 years of Christian scholarship exploring this and discussing it. And the biggest problem that the church faces, I think, is that The best scholars that discuss this and study it and talk about this, the best scholars don't end up being preachers. The best scholars don't end up having congregations. They don't end up communicating with the masses. They don't end up being influential. Well, they might end up being influential within the various congregations, but the vast majority of the congregations don't take interest enough to read this shit. Which is like, there's a lot of knowledge out there, but they just don't bother. And then they're like, well, how can you be all powerful and still have suffering? Well, that's been talked about for at least 2,000 years, and you just aren't interested in investigating that question. Because if you were interested in investigating that question, you could literally go to a library and get 10 books right now. You could fucking Google it, and thousands of articles would be at your fingertips. But you're just not really, somebody who asks that question is just not really that interested. And it's a tough question to ask because ultimately you end up coming down on the side. Even scholars end up coming down on the side. It's like, well, yeah, he could stop it, I suppose, but he doesn't because, and then this is where you get the really shitty answer of because greater good comes from among his people when they care for the sick and the wounded and the terminally ill. But it's like that's a fucking shitty way to be a god. What are you gonna do? You're gonna be a fucking shitty god who just allows his people to suffer, but in the short term, so they can have infinite life. I mean, is that the payoff? Like I'm born with my intestines twisted and knotted, and I starve to death as an infant, and then the flip side of that is, oh wow, I get infinite, um, a lifetime of pain and suffering for my 45 minutes of life for infinite afterlife, and then my parents and my family suffer every day for the rest of their life because they saw me die. But oh, they got the life-changing opportunity to care for a sick and dying child. That's a shitty life-changing opportunity. There's no like, I mean, maybe it's better people than me that do that and come out of it and go, yeah, I that was I I I I loved it for my my mental health and my physical health and our financial health. It was one of the greatest blessings of my life to be able to hold my dying baby as it starved to death in my arms. What fucking monster would say that out loud? Anyway, I have a complicated relationship with my God, as you can tell. As you can tell, I have a very complicated relationship with my own personal Lord and Savior. We have these conversations frequently, and they very rarely end without me being very mad and saying choice words and shaking my fist. But um, but I mean, what you gonna do, right? Benjamin's in the house. Cheers, Ben. I am wrapping this up in 10 minutes. Thank you for joining the show, though. I appreciate it. But I am wrapping this up in just a few minutes because I'm tired. It's 1 o'clock and I have a big day tomorrow. A very, very big day. But nonetheless, I'll be back. We'll be live probably. We'll definitely be live next week because I got a couple of projects that I'm working on next week. Bottling day next week. We're going to do a bottling day where I'll be putting the blue labels on some bottles for the first time. And then we got a video dropping on Monday. We have more shorts hitting the feed over the course of the week. And we got a big announcement coming up in the next couple of weeks where you'll be able to buy our whiskey online from our website. Buy our whiskey from the website and have it delivered to your door. Big fucking opportunity from the Old Humble Distilling Company. We will be able to send you whiskey from our website to your front door, where all you have to do is sign a piece of paper and then you receive your whiskey and you're on your way to your party. We're on our march towards monetization. We have 2,096 subscribers, 2,097 subscribers, something like that. We are on our way to monetization. If everything continues apace, we should hit monetization by the end of August. Mark your calendars for a big party in September, an online party. We'll have a big forum show where we'll be able to bring people up and maybe we'll talk about big metaphysical shit like whether or not we live in a simulation or whether or not God is evil or I don't know, some shit. We'll see. Next week, communism versus socialism. And then, I don't know, some other shit. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for joining me. I have been the Old Humble Guy. I will continue to be the Old Humble Guy. And unfortunately, you won't be. Or maybe it's fortunate. Maybe it's fortunate for you. You won't be. Maybe it's unfortunate for you that you won't be. It's certainly fortunate for me that you won't be because I get to continue to be who I am. Keep an eye out for all the good things. Be awesome to each other. Don't forget to, what was I going to tell you not forget to do? I don't know. I'm sure it'll come to me. Be awesome to each other, guys. Cheers, and good night.